The blinding flash from a hidden phone camera froze Sloane mid-embrace, as she held Eliana against the cool concrete wall of the players' tunnel at the US Open. "We can't keep doing this in secret anymore," Sloane whispered, her voice raw with months of hidden longing, her hands trembling on Eliana's shoulders. But by the time they pulled apart, the damage was done. The photo was already uploading to every sports blog and Twitter feed in the country, turning their private world into a public firestorm just 48 hours before they were scheduled to face each other in the singles final. Sloane Ramirez, 27, the defending champion from Austin, Texas, had built her career on iron discipline and a stone-faced refusal to let anything distract her. Her family had sacrificed everything, her father's construction business loans, her mother's night shifts, so she could chase this dream. Eliana Voss, 23, the rising star from Seattle with the effortless backhand and the smile that lit up press conferences, came from a tight-knit family that still sent her care packages with her abuela's recipes and subtle hints about finding a nice boy. They had met 6 months earlier at the French Open, two rivals sharing late-night hotel bar conversations that turned into stolen kisses in empty stairwells. What started as a reckless fling became the one thing that made the endless travel, the injuries, and the pressure feel bearable. They kept it hidden because women's tennis still whispered about distractions, because sponsors wanted clean images, because Sloane's father had once said he'd rather see her lose than see her throw it all away on something unnatural. Now the image was everywhere. Sloane's hand cupping Eliana's face, their foreheads touching, the unmistakable intimacy that no caption could spin as just teammates. Within minutes, Slow-Eli kiss trended. Sponsors texted their agents. The WTA issued a bland statement about investigating conduct. Sloane's phone buzzed with her mother's voicemail, voice cracking. "How could you do this to us, Mija? After everything?" Eliana stared at her screen, heart sinking as her older brother sent a single message. "Dad saw it. He's not speaking." In the team hotel suite, Sloane paced while Eliana sat on the bed, knees pulled to her chest. "We deny it," Sloane said first, the words tasting like ash. "Say it was a celebratory hug after my semi. The angle makes it look worse." Eliana looked up, eyes wet. "Lie? Again?" "Sloane, I'm tired of lying. Every time I step on that court, I feel like I'm hiding half of who I am." Sloane stopped pacing, the weight of her own ambition crashing down. She had endorsements lined up for next year. Shoe deals, a clothing line. If she stayed the Focus champion, coming out now, right before the final against the woman she loved, could cost her everything her family had bled for. The next morning the press room was a zoo. Microphones thrust forward, cameras flashing. Sloane stood at the podium alone, Eliana watching from the back. "It was a moment of emotion after a tough match," Sloane said, voice steady but eyes avoiding the cameras. "Nothing more." The room erupted. Eliana slipped out before anyone could corner her, tears burning as she ran back to her room. The betrayal stung deeper than any loss on court. That night they met in secret again, this time in Eliana's suite. Doors locked, lights off. "You threw me under the bus," Eliana whispered, voice breaking. Sloane pulled her close, guilt twisting in her chest. "I was scared. My dad called. He said if I don't fix this he'll never speak to me again. My whole life is this sport, Eli. I don't know who I am without it." Eliana pulled back, searching her face. "And who are you with me?" The question hung between them like a match point. By afternoon the league had suggested they avoid each other until after the final. Their coaches held separate strategy sessions. Sloane's agent warned her that 2 major sponsors were threatening to pull if any more drama surfaced. Eliana's family flew in unannounced, her mother hugging her tightly in the lobby while her father stood rigid, eyes on the floor. "This is not who we raised you to be," he said quietly when they were alone. Eliana felt the ground shift under her. She had always been the good daughter, the one who made them proud with trophies. Now she was the disappointment. That evening, alone in the training room, Eliana hit ball after ball against the wall until her arms screamed. Each swing a question. Love or legacy? Sloane watched from the doorway, unseen at first. When Eliana finally noticed her, the anger and longing collided. They didn't speak. They just stood there, 3 feet apart, the air thick with everything they couldn't say in public. Sloane took 1 step forward, then stopped. "The final is in 2 days. We have to play each other. How do we do this?" Eliana wiped sweat from her brow. I don't know. But I know I can't pretend anymore. The words landed like a serve ace. Sloane felt the crack in her carefully built armor. For the first time she wondered if the gold trophy was worth the cost of losing the only person who saw her completely. As night fell over Flushing Meadows, the two women lay awake in separate rooms, the leaked kiss replaying on every screen, the final looming like Judgment Day. The choice was no longer abstract. It was here in every heartbeat, in every unspoken word. Morning brought fresh headlines and fresh pain. Sloane's phone lit up with messages from old friends back in Texas offering prayers that felt more like judgment. Her father left a voicemail she couldn't bring herself to delete. Fix this before you lose everything we built. Eliana's Instagram was flooded with hateful comments mixed with supportive ones from strangers. Her agent called voice tight. The Nike meeting is on hold. They want to see how you handle this. The pressure was suffocating. They were required to attend a joint press availability that afternoon, seated at opposite ends of a long table. The moderator's questions were clinical. How will this affect your performance in the final? Sloane answered first, jaw set. Tennis is tennis. Personal matters stay off the court. Eliana's turn came. She hesitated, fingers twisting the microphone cord. I respect my opponent. That's all. The lie tasted bitter. Later, in the empty players' lounge, Sloane cornered her. You almost said something out there. Eliana met her gaze. Because I'm done hiding, Sloane. You chose your career. I have to choose mine too, my real one. Sloane's chest tightened. She reached for Eliana's hand but stopped when footsteps approached. The moment slipped away again. That night Sloane called her mother. The conversation was short and shattering. If you go through with this lifestyle, don't expect us at the final. We love you, but we can't support what we don't understand. Sloane hung up, sliding down the wall of her hotel bathroom. Tears she hadn't cried since junior nationals falling freely. Across the city, Eliana sat with her brother in a quiet diner. Dad's not coming. He says it's too much for the family name. Her brother, usually her biggest supporter, looked uncomfortable. Eli, maybe you can just keep it quiet until after the season. Win the title. Then figure it out. Eliana stared into her coffee. Figure it out? Like it's a bad habit I can quit. The betrayal from her own blood cut deep. The next day practice was mandatory and separate. Sloane drilled serves with her coach barking corrections while Eliana worked ground strokes on the adjacent court. Their eyes met across the net more than once. Each glance carried years of shared hotel rooms, whispered dreams, and now this growing chasm. During a water break, Sloane walked over, voice low. I miss you. God, I miss you. Eliana's eyes softened for a second before hardening. Missing me doesn't fix what you said in that press room. Sloane flinched. The truth was she had started to question everything. The career she had sacrificed, relationships for now felt hollow without Eliana. But admitting that meant risking the one thing she had always defined herself by. Media camped outside the hotel. One reporter shouted at Eliana as she left for dinner. Are you two in a relationship? She kept walking, head high, but inside she was crumbling. Back in her room she opened her laptop and read the comments. Some calling them role models for courage, others saying they were ruining the sport. The weight of being a symbol she never asked to be pressed on her shoulders. Sloane, meanwhile, met with her agent in a private conference room. If you win the final and keep quiet, we can spin this as a one-time thing. Sponsors will come back. The words made her sick. She left the meeting without signing the new contract they had prepared. Late that night they found each other again. This time on the empty practice court under security lights. No words at first. Sloane served. Eliana returned. They played a silent set. Every rally a conversation. When Eliana won the last point she dropped her racket and walked to the net. I love you. But I won't be your secret anymore. Sloane stepped forward, the net between them like the barrier they had built. I love you too. I'm just terrified of losing everything. Eliana reached across, fingers brushing Sloane's. Then maybe we both lose something. But at least we'll have each other. The touch lingered, a promise and a question. As they walked off the court together, security cameras watching, they knew the final wasn't just about tennis anymore. It was about who they would be when the last ball was hit. The city lights of New York glittered beyond the stadium. indifferent to the hearts breaking and mending inside. The day before the final brought the heaviest blow yet. A major sponsor released a statement distancing itself from personal controversies. Sloane's phone rang with her coach's number. The league wants a meeting. Both of you. In the conference room, the officials were polite but firm. We support diversity, but the optics right now are challenging. We suggest you focus solely on the match. Eliana sat straight, voice calm. And if we don't? The silence was answer enough. Sloane felt her future slipping. Years of ranking points, training camps, sacrifices, all hanging by the thread of this one decision. After the meeting, they walked the corridors together for the first time in public since the leak. Whispers followed. Sloane's hand brushed Eliana's accidentally, and she pulled away instinctively. Eliana noticed. Still hiding. It wasn't accusation, just fact. Sloane stopped. I'm trying, Eli. Every second I'm trying. They reached a quiet alcove near the gift shop. Eliana turned to her. My mom called this morning. She said she loves me, but she can't come to the final if this is who I am. She cried. Sloane pulled her into a hug, right there where anyone could see. For a moment the world disappeared. Then a fan's phone clicked and they separated again. The cycle of fear continued. Back in her room, Sloane opened her suitcase and found the small silver necklace Eliana had given her in Paris, 2 interlocking rackets. She put it on, hidden under her shirt. The metal was cool against her skin. A secret reminder. Her agent called again. Nike is watching the final. Win clean, stay quiet, and the deal is back on. Sloane hung up and stared at her reflection. The woman looking back had won titles but lost pieces of herself along the way. She picked up her phone and typed a message to Eliana. Meet me at the court at midnight. No hiding. Eliana arrived first, sitting on the baseline in the dark stadium, the court lit only by emergency lights. Sloane appeared from the tunnel carrying 2 rackets. They didn't speak. They just played. Long rallies, no score kept. Sweat mixed with silent tears. When they finally stopped, breathless, Sloane dropped her racket and crossed the net. I choose you. After the final, I choose you. Publicly. No more lies. Eliana searched her face for doubt and found none. Even if it costs the sponsors? Even if our families turn away? Sloane nodded. Even then. They kissed under the open sky. The stadium empty but the decision final. Morning of the final arrived with clear blue skies and a sold-out crowd. The atmosphere was electric, charged with more than tennis. Commentators mentioned the distraction in hushed tones. Sloane's family seats remained empty. Eliana's mother sat alone, clutching a rosary. In the locker room they dressed in silence, stealing glances. Sloane broke first. Whatever happens out there, I love you. Eliana smiled through nerves. Play your best. I'll play mine. Then we faced the world together. They walked out to thunderous applause mixed with boos. The crowd was divided just like their hearts had been. The warm-up was tense. Every ball they hit carried extra weight. When the chair umpire called time, they met at the net for the coin toss. Their eyes locked. For the first time in days, the love was visible to anyone watching closely. The match began. Sloane won the first set 6-4, her serve lethal. Eliana took the second 7-5, her returns finding impossible angles. The third set went to a tiebreak. The stadium held its breath with every point. Sloane led 6-5. Eliana saved match point with a backhand winner that brought the crowd to its feet. On the next point, Sloane's forehand sailed long. Eliana had won the set 7-6. The final set stretched on, each woman pushing her body and heart to the limit. At 5-5, Sloane felt the exhaustion and the fear. One more game and it would be over one way or another. She looked across the net at Eliana, sweat dripping, eyes fierce and loving. In that moment, Sloane knew the real victory wasn't the trophy. It was the woman standing opposite her. The next point, she hit a serve that Eliana returned with power. The rally lasted 20 strokes. When Sloane finally put the ball away, the score was 6-5 her favor. But as she prepared to serve for the match, she paused, racket lowered. The crowd murmured. Eliana waited, understanding. Sloane walked to the net. I can't do this without telling the truth first. The umpire called for order. Sloane spoke into her microphone, voice carrying across the stadium. Eliana and I are together. We've been together. And after this match, whatever the result, I'm not hiding anymore. Gasps rippled through the stands. Eliana's eyes filled with tears. The crowd erupted, not in boos but in applause that grew until it shook the stadium. The match resumed in a new atmosphere. The applause had changed everything. Sloane served for the match again. This time her arm felt lighter. Eliana returned with equal fire. They traded points, the tennis pure and beautiful, no longer tainted by secrecy. At 40-30, Sloane hit a serve that Eliana barely reached. The ball clipped the line. Game, set, match. Sloane. But instead of celebration, Sloane dropped her racket and walked straight to the net. Eliana met her halfway. They embraced in front of 20,000 people, the kiss brief but unmistakable. The stadium rose as one, clapping, cheering, phones recording what would become the most shared moment in women's sports history. In the press conference afterward, they sat side by side. No more separate tables. Questions flew. How long have you been together? Are you worried about your careers? Sloane answered first. 6 months. And yes, we were worried. But living a lie was costing us more than any sponsor ever could. Eliana added. We both nearly chose fear. But love won. Their families watched from home. Some angry, some proud, all forever changed. Sloane's father texted a single word later that night. Proud. It was a start. Eliana's mother called, voice soft. I saw you on TV. You looked happy. That's all I want. The next weeks were a whirlwind. Offers poured in, not despite the relationship, but because of the courage it represented. A new clothing line wanted both their names. A documentary crew requested access. But the real victory came in quiet moments. They moved into a small apartment in Manhattan together, the first home that felt like theirs. Training sessions were harder but sweeter. The court no longer held secrets. Yet the cost remained. Sloane lost one major endorsement. Eliana's brother still struggled to accept. Society's judgment didn't vanish overnight. There were still stares in restaurants, awkward questions from strangers. 6 months later, they returned to the Australian Open as defending champions in doubles. They had decided to play together now. The final was against two strong opponents. During the match, they communicated with glances and touches that told a story the crowd understood. When they lifted the trophy together, arms around each other, the applause was deafening. Back in the locker room, Sloane pulled Eliana close. Remember when we thought this would end us? Eliana laughed softly. We almost let it. But the journey wasn't over. Sloane's father flew to the next tournament. They met for dinner, tense at first. I don't understand it all, he said. But I see how she makes you better. That's enough for now. Eliana's family slowly warmed, sending gifts with notes that said, we're trying. The internal battles continued. Moments of doubt when a sponsor pulled out. Nights when the weight of being pioneers felt too heavy. Yet each time they chose each other again. The world watched, learned, and slowly changed. 1 year after the leaked kiss, they stood on the same US Open court for another final. This time as doubles partners. The match was close, the crowd invested. When they won, they didn't just celebrate the title. They celebrated the life they had fought to live openly. Sloane looked at Eliana, trophy between them, and whispered, worth every sacrifice. Eliana kissed her cheek for the cameras. Every single one. The years that followed brought more titles, more challenges, more growth. They became advocates, speaking at schools and to young athletes about authenticity. Some doors closed forever. Others opened wider than they could have imagined. Their love, once a secret that nearly destroyed them, became the foundation that made them unbreakable. In the end, the final that had started it all, the one where Sloane had almost chosen glory over heart, became the moment that taught them the greatest lesson. The real championship isn't won on the court. It's won in the choices we make when the world demands we pick a side. And sometimes, just sometimes, the crowd stands and claps not for the winner, but for the courage to love anyway. The story didn't end with trophies or applause. It continued in the quiet decisions that followed. Sloane turned down a multimillion-dollar solo endorsement that required her to tone down her personal life. Eliana publicly supported a charity for LGBTQ+ youth in sports, sharing their story in a video that went viral. Their families attended the wedding and a small ceremony in California the following summer. Sloane's father walking her down the aisle with tears in his eyes. Eliana's mother hugging them both afterward. The road had been long and painful, but it led to a place where love and career finally coexisted. Yet even in happiness there were scars. Sloane sometimes woke from nightmares about the leaked photo. The moment she had almost lost everything. Eliana still tensed when strangers stared too long in public. They talked about it openly now, the therapy sessions, the late-night conversations that kept them grounded. The sport itself changed too. More players came out. Rules evolved. Sponsors realized authenticity sold better than perfection. Their story became a turning point. A reminder that progress is made by those willing to pay the price. 5 years later they retired from professional tennis on their own terms, moving back to Austin to coach young girls at a new academy they founded. The academy's motto, painted on the wall in bold letters: play with heart, live with truth. Every day they watched kids who looked like their younger selves, talented, scared, dreaming. They told them their story not as a fairy tale, but as the hard-won truth it was. One afternoon a 13-year-old girl approached them after practice. "I saw the video of your final. The one where you kissed after the match. Did you ever regret it?" Sloane and Eliana exchanged a look. Sloane knelt down. "Never. It was the hardest thing we ever did, but it was also the best." Eliana added, "The world tried to make us choose. We chose both. And we won." The girl smiled, hope in her eyes. As the sun set over the courts, Sloane took Eliana's hand. The same hand that had held hers through every crisis. The same hand that had lifted trophies beside hers. "We paid the price," Sloane said softly. "But look what we got in return." Eliana leaned her head on Sloane's shoulder. "A life that feels like ours." The stadium lights flickered on in the distance, a reminder of where it all began. The leaked kiss. The impossible choice. The final that changed everything. The story of Sloane and Eliana became legend in women's sports. Not because they won every title, but because they refused to lose themselves. They showed the world that love and ambition could coexist, that sacrifice didn't have to mean surrender, that sometimes the greatest victory is simply being true. And in the hearts of every athlete who came after, their courage lived on. Years later, when young players asked how they did it, Sloane would smile and say, "We stopped hiding. The rest followed." Eliana would add, "And we never let go of each other." Their hands would find each other again, the same way they had on that fateful final court. The world had changed because two women refused to let it stay the same. The final chapter of their public journey came at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony 10 years after that U.S. Open final. Sloane and Eliana stood together on stage, hands intertwined, as the crowd of legends and fans rose in a standing ovation that lasted minutes. The presenter read their citation. For their excellence on the court and their courage off it, changing the game for generations. Sloane stepped to the microphone first. "We didn't set out to be pioneers. We just wanted to love each other and play the sport we loved. The world made it harder, but we made it through." Eliana continued, voice steady. "To every young athlete watching, your truth is your greatest weapon. Don't let anyone force you to choose between who you are and what you can achieve." Backstage, their families surrounded them. Fathers who had once turned away now beaming with pride. Mothers who had cried now laughing. The sacrifices had healed into something stronger. Acceptance earned through persistence and love. That night in their hotel room overlooking the ocean, Sloane pulled out the old silver necklace, still worn every day. "Remember when we thought this would ruin us?" Eliana laughed, taking it and fastening it around her own neck for a moment. "We were wrong. It saved us." They sat on the balcony, the sound of waves mixing with distant cheers from a late-night match on TV. The sport had moved on, more out athletes, safer locker rooms, inclusive policies, but they knew the fight wasn't over. New generations faced new versions of the same prejudice. Their academy continued to grow, producing not just champions but confident young women who knew their worth. Looking back, the leaked kiss that had once felt like the end of the world became the beginning of their real story. The betrayal, the fear, the moral dilemmas. All of it had forced them to confront what mattered most. Sloane had learned that career without authenticity was empty. Eliana had learned that love without courage was incomplete. Together they had paid the price and found it was worth every tear, every lost endorsement, every sleepless night. As the moon rose high, Sloane turned to Eliana. "If we could go back, would we change anything?" Eliana shook her head. Not a single thing. Because it led us here. They kissed slow and sure. The same passion that had started it all now deepened by time and trial. The world slept, but their legacy stayed awake in every girl who picked up a racket and dared to dream without hiding. In the end, the question that lingered for everyone who heard their story was this. When forced to choose between the career you built and the love that makes you whole, is picking love the right decision? Or is it the only decision that truly lets you win?